I think to step by step also continue Nigeria's leading role in the global energy market and position it. Because I think the decisions that are made here in the coming years, a few years, well, they're vitally important to determine that path. Because we know that the International Energy Agency predicts that even if current policies continue, well, global demand for all fossil fuels is likely to peak before 2030. And so to business and to finance, well, this sends the message that there's no need actually to invest in new coal, oil, or natural gas projects. In fact, there is likely a great risk that investing in that, they could become stranded assets. And so there are a number of fossil fuel exporting countries that also have realized this, and they're looking at how to diversify their economy, shifting investments into solar, into wind. This is a massive challenge, and I don't want to understate this challenge. But if it's done in a smart, orderly, transparent, step-by-step, and clear manner, I think it can, and we're seeing it can attract the much-needed investment to build the new resilient economy. And last year, the International Renewable Energy Agency produced a report on Nigeria. And it showed that actually renewable energy technologies will be key to achieving a sustainable energy mix and meeting the country's growing needs. And it also found that investing in renewables is equally, if not a bit more cost-effective than continuing to invest the conventional fossil fuel path. And it also found that in a scenario with rapid renewable energy expansion, Nigeria could provide, again, electricity to its entire population 5 years sooner than under current plans. So Nigeria indeed has an ambitious energy transition plan. Your government is on it. Your country is well positioned. On our way, every country needs to find its own way. Transformation, well, it is a step-by-step effort. And I think we have to cooperate internationally. That is key through climate finance, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. And an international financial reform to enable these efforts. Because I think the investments and structural changes now, well, they're going to provide new jobs and economic growth, enabling those social economic benefits that are at the core of the just transition in South Africa, which I think is also incredibly important.
Let me ask you this question. You were in Abuja yesterday, am I right, Madam Secretary? Okay. And then you interacted with our government officials, those who are concerned. I would like to know, number one, your impression about the situation, the feedback you're able to get from about our preparedness and our commitment to move this conversation forward. And then, of course, how did you evaluate Nigerian climate situation? You mentioned, and then, so when you're in Abuja and compare that to Lagos, how would you summarize the climate situation in Nigeria? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Secretary of State. I'm particularly, one is a comment and one is a question. The comment is that I'm very glad you used two words, actions to be fast and fair. Why this resonated with me is that it has been arguably said that the major contributors to climate changes are actually the industrialized world. However, as a corollary, irony of it is that the impact is mostly felt by the less industrialized world. So with your experience, you have worked with several internationally recognized NGOs. Okay? In your capacity now, the Secretary of State, working with the government of the Republic of Germany, what has been your experience so far, especially vis-a-vis the COPs, the United Nations?
And I have it's more of a comment plus a question. So I look at the private sector as being very useful in the fight against climate change. And as everybody recognizes, Africa is the perfect place for solar energy. What would be helpful is if we could have more solar production here on the continent, because that will reduce the price for everybody. And I come from a region where a lot of people are now investing in solar. Those who can afford it, and they recognize the impact So that's the first thing. You know, we're looking at B2B partnership with European companies, you know, rather than looking at doing huge projects with the public sector, which in Africa is always problematic. Focus more on the private sector to do more production here, because I really don't appreciate having to buy everything from China and the whole export and import, you know, thing, which increases fumes and etc. through shipping, etc. So B2B partnership, more partnership between European companies who want to do production in Africa with the private sector. And some years, many years ago, and there was a beautiful scheme whereby the government was subsidizing houses who generated electricity with solar, who were able to transmit to the grid and sell. That would be so perfect in Nigeria. Homes were able to have that sort of setup where you're generating excess electricity, you can transfer to electricity. Okay. So that's the kind of thing that would work for us.
First is an observation and the second is a question. The observation, the United States Agency for International Development very recently published a report that Nigeria is the 9th largest plastic production polluter in the world. That is a challenge, it's a problem, because clearly that can be recycled in the context of environmental sustainability. What can Germany and Nigeria do to work in that regard to solve that? The second is the issue about climate financing. We've talked about the opportunities, okay? Or rather, we've talked about the challenges. I think there's a real opportunity there in terms of innovatively and creatively thinking about the financing of that. So I welcome your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Science, UNILAG. And yeah, I have a question on the proposition, my thoughts, as you said. So my question is majorly about the Nigeria-German diplomatic relations. So can a relations between Nigeria and Germany foster climate solution? The question I'm asking is due to the resolution from COP28 last year. We had phase out resolution, yet Nigeria is Nigeria's major revenue is from.
But I think maybe one theme that I heard is around, the private sector, the feed-in tariff that you mentioned, which I agree has been a key piece, not just for private sector, but also for individuals to have energy independence. And I think one of the key lessons along the way, I would say, within the energy sector, that was that we didn't try and do it all at once. We got going on the feed-in tariff on renewables. We kind of started the just transition away from coal, but we would have been better off actually accelerating that just transition away from coal at the same time as building out the renewable energy. And the other thought is just thinking the social impacts first, and the impacts on households and on people's jobs, along with the climate piece. Financing, this is the year of finance, and I think there are many conversations that are happening around the world on how to address debt. As I mentioned, debt swaps for climate protection or nature. Also, new innovative finance mechanisms that can be raising funds through different types of green bonds, etc., but also looking at things like guarantees. So that was one of the questions about how to get actually the investment in places like Nigeria. If you think about the cost of capital being 8 times higher in Africa than it is in Europe for renewable energy, well then a lot of those are risks. Some of them are perceived risks. So how about having a guarantee initiative, this is what we're trying, that you can actually have government guarantees to take the risk in case something goes wrong so the private sector can come in more quickly. So that's just one example, I think, of things that are out there. Homegrown solutions, the renewables are homegrown here, and I think I heard very loud and clear wanting to create those jobs here. And that is also what we want to do. So looking at what is the model of collaboration We have some work happening in Namibia right now as well. And actually having that local value creation or jobs here, value chains here, that is also something that I'm sure Chancellor Schultz brought with him when he was also here. And in terms of Nigeria, and maybe first the COPs, I think the situation we have now is that it's a group of 20 countries around the world, the G20, that cause about 80% of the emissions. And there's the energy transition plan and the 30-30-30, the 30% renewable energy goal that's here. And I think my observation is let's get to work. Let's get down into the milestones. Let's look at the investment plan and the financing and move forward, particularly on the energy access through solar. That was my takeaway from yesterday. And opportunities for cultural exchange and between our universities, would love to think more about that. I think that's one of the most important things that we can be doing as countries and as universities, if I may, Vice Chancellor, Acting Vice Chancellor, on bringing that in as well. So that's my quick summary, and we could talk much longer. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all your questions and all that you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think it's really a wonderful audience.
Request to Jennifer Morgan is to say, Shehu, I need to see you in Berlin, I need to see you in Stuttgart, I need to see you in Leverkusen, I need to see you in Leipzig for the 2024 Euro Games. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to all those who found time to be here. God bless you and have a productive day ahead. Thank you for that. Please, there are some souvenirs from Germany that are free that you can take, please.